The Premier League, does it ever disappoint? Well, it depends who you're asking, I guess. The final day has been done, and Everton Football Club are safe after a much-needed victory against Bournemouth, and they secure their status, by the way. They will compete in English top-flight league for the 70th consecutive season. Leicester City, unfortunately, despite the victory, they are down. They will join Blackburn as the only team to have won the league and be down as well. Leeds are also down. Much to discuss, of course. Aston Villa, secure Conference League. Janusz Michallik is in the house. How are you, my friend?
I am doing well. So the season's over. We know everything now, my friend.
We know everything. And Janusz and yours truly will be discussing what happened, obviously, at Goodison Park as they beat Bournemouth. Also, the after effects of the teams that went down. Who went to Europe, of course. We also have our reporters, by the way, on ground. Mark Ogden is at Everton. Rob Dawson is at Leeds. And James Olley at Leicester as well. So let's begin. Your initial reaction here, Janusz Michallik. Everton, they're safe. They made it happen. Sean Dyche made it happen. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is the second season in a row where they're fighting that. It's a massive, massive club. I saw that stat today that, I think it's been 124 years in top football in England, and Everton have been there for 120 of them. That's incredible, right? But again, I hope that this is the second and last warning for Everton Football Club, because I don't think they can sustain the way they've been playing. They're a big club. They have a lot of decent players, I would say, but something needs to change going forward, because as we've seen, even Leeds, obviously Leeds saved themselves last season on the last day. We see what's happening here, and I just wonder if Everton can continue to do that. So next season, a year of transition for Everton, I think, out of jail card this time. And if they want to be in the Premier League when their brand new stadium opens in 2024-25 season, I think they have got a lot of thinking to do, a sense of direction, a sense of recruitment. So they are ready to enter into that new stadium and maybe a new era for Everton Football Club, because that's not where they belong at the end of the table.
Yes, a very good point there. There is a lot to do for Everton this summer and beyond, because you don't want to make this a repetitive thing, of course. And as Janusz said, by the way, only Arsenal, by the way, continue to be in the top league longer. 70th campaign in the top flight for Everton, but much more to do. As I mentioned earlier, we have our writers from the stadium. Let's have James Olley, who, by the way, is at King Power Stadium despite the victory. Dean Smith and the team tried their hardest, and it was looking good at the beginning, James, and then obviously the Everton goal came in. Give me your initial reaction and the atmosphere there at Leicester City.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody really knew quite what to make of this. It was a strange afternoon, because obviously they had to do their job first and foremost to win the game here, and then hope for some help at Goodison Park. And when they went 2-0 up, it was sort of an odd goal celebration, because it sort of, yes, it made the result a little bit more secure here, and obviously gave them the 2-goal advantage. But by the same token, they're sort of saying, well, this doesn't really change anything. It was odd. The longer the game went on, the more people were watching this, but clearly had radios on, listening to something else. And I think the sort of atmosphere at full time was, I mean, look, no one can blame Dean Smith for this. He was given 8 games. The fact is they've not had a great run in those 8 matches, but that's not really long enough to try and keep a team in the Premier League. So clearly he was never going to be the focus of the team's ire. And they do like the owners here. I mean, there has been criticism of the owners, but obviously 7 years ago, this club was Premier League champions against all the odds. So I don't think anybody really quite knew where to focus their frustration, and that was sort of encapsulated by the lack of honour, acknowledgement from the players at the end there when the relegation was confirmed, because it was a mixture of boos and applause. And again, I think some of the fans would blame some of the players for not turning up in many of their big games before today. But I think others think the sort of deep-rooted issues lie elsewhere, with the money that they've, obviously the losses that they've accrued off the field and their recruitment. So a lot of soul-searching here today, because, I don't think anybody had Leicester going down at the start of the season when we all made our predictions. And really, this is a club that's at a major crossroads now. Some big decisions have got to be taken going forward.
So I'll let Janusz chime in a second here, but James, just one question for you, because obviously we've got Rob and Augie coming in as well. You mentioned, of course, that, it wasn't too long ago when they won the Premier League. I do believe COVID-19 was a massive factor. The owners of Leicester City, of course, rely a lot on retail and duty free. So obviously the money wasn't there. Replicating the talent that was leaving. What's next? Does Dean Smith stay? Are we expecting some big players leaving the club? What's the next step, do you think?
Well, I mean, it will be the second question in the press conference, won't it? Dean, how do you feel? Are you staying? Look, I mean, he may do. He's got experience of managing in the Championship. It would be a cheaper option for them than, and finances are going to be a factor. I mean, the next immediate step is there's going to be a lot of players leaving the club. There's multiple players: Tielemans, Perez, Sionchu, Mendy, Amati, Johnny Evans, Ryan Bertrand, Tete, all out of contract at the end of this season. They cost, both that group of players cost £100 million to bring in. So there's going to be a big turnover in players. You start looking at players like, most obviously, James Maddison. Is he going to hang around for another season? You wouldn't have thought so. Harvey Barnes may go as well. I think this squad will look very, very different come September the 1st. I mean, really different. And they've got some tough decisions to make. Yeah, you're right about the financial losses. I think they lost a club record £92 million. They announced that in March. Didn't include the Fofana money, so they've got 75 million coming in there. But look, I mean, this is a club that needs its Premier League status to survive. So they're going to now have to cut their cloth accordingly, big time. And as I say, the lineup for the first game of next season could be completely unrecognisable from what we've seen out there. And maybe they need it. I mean, relegation is always a moment for a big reset at a club. But yeah, it's just sort of staggering to think. As remarkable as it was for Leicester to win the Premier League, this isn't quite as big a shock, but it's not far off.
Yeah, sometimes you have to break it all down in order to build it right back. But Leicester City are heading down to the Championship, joining Southampton and Leeds United. And we have Rob Dawson joining us as well from Ellen Road. It was a pitiful start as Tottenham got going straight away, Rob, and it really didn't get better from then. Give me your overall reaction from the game and just the overall mood regarding Leeds United as they drop to the Championship.
I mean, the mood around Ellen Road at the moment, or at the final whistle, was one of anger. They really had to harness the power of Ellen Road today to stand any chance. Obviously, they needed other results to go their way, and they end up conceding in the first 2 minutes. They go in at half-time 1-0 down, and there's a little bit of a reset perhaps at half-time, and they think maybe they can get back into it. And again, straight after half-time, concede a second goal, and when you go 2-0 down in a game that you need to win, it's all but done and dusted. And even when they got a consolation goal through Jack Harrison, again they conceded 2 minutes after that, and it really was a calamitous performance. And I think even after the first goal goes in after 2 minutes, the Leeds fans inside Ellen Road had kind of resigned themselves to the fact that they were going down. There were chants of "you're not fit to wear the shirt" at the players. There were chants at the board as well. Sack the board and to the owners to sell the club. There were boos at the full-time whistle. It really a miserable day for Leeds fans.
A miserable day indeed. Janusz Michallik, let me ask you this. Where is the blame? Is Sam Allardyce, did he come in too late? Should he have done more? Are the players to blame? Where do we go here as Leeds United, after returning from Marcelo Bielsa days, now drop back to the Championship? Where are we looking at here?
Well, first and foremost, just incredible instability, right? If we look at the teams that are dropping, it's a common threat, isn't it? That's usually what happens. And some save themselves in the last moment. I mentioned Everton; they've got a lot of thinking to do because obviously, I don't think they can get away with that for another season. They haven't been stable as well, so that's one. With Big Sam, I know across the pond my colleagues here how they feel about him, and I have a lot of respect for him. But I've never been a big fan. I can appreciate the fact that in the past he's kept some teams up, but he's a minimalist, right? So if you bring somebody for 4 games, it's not easy. But clearly they brought him in because he can bring in the fundamentals, the defensive fundamentals, and maybe settle a team. And here we are, 4 games. He's conceded even 11 goals. That team was maybe worse under him than it was before him. I could easily make that case. So he certainly hasn't done anything. I know he's got a little bit of an ego, and maybe in jest he mentioned some of the things that he's as good as anyone, but I haven't seen it. I'll give him credit for saving some teams. This is the second team that goes down, and I don't think he's made any difference whatsoever. With one exception, I thought maybe, just maybe, putting Joe Robles in goal, but I'm not even sure about that. So, how England at one point picked him as a manager, it's beyond me. Imagine him with some of these young players that are thriving right now. So I want to be careful how I say that because I'm across the pond, but I just, not my cup of tea, these sort of managers. And I just don't buy into Big Sam as much of a credit as I want to give him.
Rob, let me ask you something before before we move on to the other conversation, because I think that, regarding what Janusz has signed, the managerial changes, and of course, Jesse Marsch didn't work out. And then you go from trying to, emulate, I guess, the energy of the Marcelo Bielsa days, and you bring in, just like Janusz said, Sam Allardyce. Isn't Andrea Radrizzani and his team a little bit more to blame here? How you can go from 180 in terms of a philosophy and a strategy to one other? Where are the fingers being pointed at, do you think, from the Leeds United fan base?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, there are two sets to blame here. You can point at the mismanagement off the field. They probably stuck with Jesse Marsch too long. They gave him the January transfer window, allowed him to bring in players, and then sacked him. They made another short-term appointment in Javi Gracia. That didn't work out, and then they bring in Sam Allardyce for 4 games. And you're right. How do you transition from Marcelo Bielsa all the way to Sam Allardyce, 2 managers that you would think are polar opposites in terms of their approach to the game, but also just on the pitch, purely on the pitch, there have been far too many individual mistakes. Sam Allardyce even today wrote in his programme notes about even in his short spell here that there's been too many individual mistakes. And just watching this game, inside 30 seconds, Weston McKennie has the ball, he has a simple pass and gives it straight to Son, and Tottenham have a chance to score. So, yes, mistakes off the pitch, things to address off the pitch. Obviously, they're going to need a new manager now, but, the players also have got to shoulder some of the blame themselves. Today, when they needed to win, they were absolutely pitiable. They just made so many unforced errors, so many mistakes all over the pitch, and have ended up losing a game 4-1 that they desperately needed to win. So, yes, mistakes off the pitch, but also lots and lots of mistakes on the pitch, typified with the performance today against Spurs.
Yeah, a lot to do, of course. And Leeds United joins Leicester City and, of course, Southampton dropping to the Championship. Rob Dawson, thank you so much, my friend. Make sure to get home safe.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.